Now you're good.
Now we'll call to order the Basalt Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Tuesday, June 17th. How do you want to start with the roll call?
All right. Bill Marin, Kyle Oberketter, Eric Vozek, Rob Levitt,
Yes.
Cindy Hirschfield,
Yes.
Katie Hostetler, Mike Horvath,
Here.
Bob Kaplan,
Here.
Ben Firestein.
Here.
Great, you have a quorum.
And we're not approving minutes tonight.
You can go straight to item 2A.
Okay, straight to item 2A, a public hearing on the Jadwin Black Mountain preliminary plan.
Yeah, thank you. Let me please share my screen here, just a quick second. We have the applicants here this evening. We've got Michael Forrest and Ramsey Fulton from Building Seed Architects, and we've got Bridger Smith behind him. And let me try to share my screen again. That didn't work very well. There we go. So this is a public hearing on an application submitted by Jadwin Park LLC. It's for a preliminary plan PUD and associated land use requests to construct 64 dwelling units and 12 commercial lodging cabins and approximately 4 acres of open space on the property known as the Jadwin property at 431 Emma Road. As background, the applicant received sketch plan approval in September of 2023. The applicants are in the PUD process that requires 3 rounds of review by the Planning and Zoning Commission and Town Council. They are in the second round of review, which is the preliminary plan, where the details of sketch plan are further refined. The application includes an annexation request, and the initial annexation eligibility was determined at the sketch plan level for the Jadwin project. This evening, staff recommends treating this meeting as an introductory meeting to the preliminary plan application and the discussion items that are associated with the preliminary plan. And so as such, staff would recommend after the staff presentation, hearing comments from the applicants, taking public comments, and then also providing some initial P&Z discussion and also identifying additional information that the P&Z would need to make a recommendation at a future meeting. And then ultimately the P&Z could continue the public hearing to July. So to begin with, the property subject to the application is known as the Jadwin property. It is about 9 acres, and it's located just west of the post office, as you can see on the vicinity map here. It contains a single-family house as well as a mobile home, and it's been being used by the town as the laydown yard for the Midland Avenue construction project over the past couple of years. The property subject to the application is within the town's urban growth boundary as well. The preliminary plan application itself is for 64 dwelling units that are proposed to be a mix of flats and townhomes. There's also 12 commercial lodging units that are cabins that are located on the western extent of the property, as you can see here where the cursor's at. And then they're proposing 4 acres of open space adjacent to the river. That's to include a crusher fine trail around the open space as well as to the river itself. The applicants associated with the project are proposing a trail that would be separated from Emma Road that connects with the bike trail that ends over by the post office, and then that would go to the western extent of the property. Of the 64 dwelling units, 32 are proposed to be deed restricted as category or primary resident and RO units. And the applicant, consistent with the sketch plan approval, has proposed 20 first tracks units, what they're calling first tracks units, which are basically market rate units that are offered to locals for a period of time in the valley when they're first offered. This was proposed as some additional community benefit as part of the sketch plan review. You may also remember that there was a glamping component that was proposed at the sketch plan level. That has been removed from the application at the direction of the town council during the sketch plan review. The applicants can provide some more details on the preliminary plan application as part of their discussion. But staff has identified a series of discussion items that are in your packet. They're in the staff memo, and we also have them on the screen here. And so staff will go through these discussion items and give a brief status update on each one. So the first being the consistency with the master plan and the town's inclusionary housing requirements. The applicant, as I noted, has proposed for 24 of the units to be category level units, and then an additional 8 to be primary resident units or RO units, which is beyond the town's mitigation requirements of 20% of the units being required to be category units and 25% of the square footage. So they've more than satisfied those requirements. With regard to consistency with the master plan, staff identified a series of goals and objectives that are in the master plan that are applicable to the project, and they start on page 4 of the staff memo. Staff generally believes that many of the master plan's goals and objectives related to affordable housing and preservation of open space and connectivity are furthered by the proposal. As the proposal satisfies the town's inclusionary housing requirements and adds housing near transit and services and on property that's in the urban growth boundary. Also, the layout of the project is generally consistent with the future land use map designations for the property. This is a good slide that shows generally the makeup of the project, which has the 12 lodging units to the west, and that was identified for lodging in the master plan, and then also have long-term housing proposed in the area that's identified as yellow in kind of the core of the project, and that's consistent with the future land use map. It should be noted that at the sketch plan level, there was a requirement in the master plan for a daycare core and shell to be developed on the property. The council instead directed that the applicant provide a $700,000 benefit to the town in lieu of actually doing a daycare core and shell. So council directed that be removed from the project. Other topics that were identified by staff for discussion include the unit mix of the project. As you can see in the packet, the majority of the units range from studios to 3 bedrooms, and most of them are in the studio and 1 bedroom level, as you can see in this chart. In examining the inventory of deed-restricted units that are under construction or in the development review process, we've got a chart in the memo. The majority of those units are in the 2-bedroom realm. So these are units that are either under construction or in approved projects that are being developed. And so staff believes that the proposal fills a gap in the inventory that is being developed, in that most of the units currently in the development realm are 2-bedroom units. Bach was supportive of the mix of units in reviewing the preliminary plan application. Additionally, as I noted, they've proposed the First Tracks program, which gives 20 of the market rate units the ability to be sold to locals in the first 90 days that they're offered. And the applicants can go into more detail on this proposal. Bach was generally, as I noted, supportive of the unit mix and the First Tracks concept. Bach also reviewed the livability requirements that are in the community housing guidelines. Bach determined at the sketch plan level that the units satisfied the community housing livability requirements. However, the applicants have made some adjustments in sketch plan to the floor plans. And they still meet all the livability requirements with the exception that 3 of the studio units are slightly below what the minimum size requirement is for studios. They're proposed between 370 and 400 square foot, and the minimum size for studios is 415 square feet. However, the Bach committee, in reviewing the proposal, felt that the units still met the livability requirements and had all the amenities that are desired, and have exterior storage units, as you can see in the floor plans. So Bach was supportive of the waiver of the minimum size requirement on the 3 studios. The rest of the units meet the size requirements and amenities that are required by the guidelines. Other topics included the community housing occupancy priorities. There's a list of the occupancy priorities that are proposed on page 10 of your staff memo. Essentially, they have all the organizations that are in the first tier in the town's housing guidelines, but they've also added the Aspen Valley Ski and Snowboard Club, as well as the U.S. Forest Service, and then also Aspen Valley Hospital to that top tier. Bach had considerable discussion about the priorities as part of their preliminary plan review, and ultimately they felt that the proposed occupancy priority groups were acceptable, so they supported that in their motion on the preliminary plan application. Other topics for evaluation at preliminary plan included transportation improvements. At the sketch plan level, it was determined that there are several transportation improvements that were necessary to effectively accommodate the development. Specifically, they were adding a dedicated right turn lane at the intersection of Emmer Road and Midland Avenue across from the post office. And in doing so, Sopris Engineering came up with 2 designs for the right turn lane. One is an option that has a longer right turn lane, as you can see in this design. And then the second option that's also in your staff memo has a shorter right turn lane design. And so staff is still working with the town engineer and the fire district to determine kind of what the recommendation is on those 2 options. And we'll bring that back at a future meeting. Both those entities have weighed in, and so staff is trying to see if we can get an agreement there. In terms of other transportation improvements, the applicant was required to design improvements to the connection of Emmer Road to the slip lane to Highway 82 to make for a better turning radius onto Emmer Road. And so the applicant has designed a better turning radius. At the sketch plan level, the fire district reviewed the change to the turn lane and the access point, and they've provided in their comments that they're accepting of the improved design. The applicants in their proposal have identified that they would be looking for a cost reimbursement proposal in the future on a fair share basis with the adjacent Stott property. If the Stott property were to come in and proposed redevelopment in the future. So that will be detailed in the conditions of approval when they come forward to you at a future meeting. Other topics include a pedestrian bridge. The master plan includes a desire for a pedestrian bridge over the river. If the number of units on the Jadwin and Stott properties together were to exceed 80 units. This desire was discussed at the sketch plan level, and Sopris Engineering did considerable analysis on whether a bridge would be possible and determined that the span would be great for the bridge and that it would potentially impact the Highway 82 area because it had to span the floodplain. And so council at the sketch plan level directed that there not be a bridge requirement in the application. Other topics included the parks, open space, and trails aspects of the proposal. And as part of the proposal, as I noted, the glamping portion of the application at sketch plan was removed. And but the applicants have extended the bike trail adjacent to Emmer Road from the post office to the western extent of their property. They've made it an 8-foot wide asphalt trail that goes down to the western extent of the property. And as I noted, they're proposing 4 acres of passive open space with a public crush refined trail and loop that would go to the river. The applicants identified those improvements in their proposal. Staff in the staff memo has gone through what the sketch plan comments were from the Parks, Open Space, and Trails Committee. And also provided an update as to where we are with those various sketch plan comments. The first one, as you can see here on the staff memo, is to preserve the wetland areas around the ditches on the site, consistent with the sketch plan recommendations of Rick LaFaro and the Roaring Fork Conservancy. And the applicants have basically stayed away from those ditch areas on the northwest and northeastern extents of the property, and you'll see that in their comments. Additionally, there were seating decks that were proposed adjacent to the river at the sketch plan level, and those were recommended to be removed from the proposal. The applicants did remove those at the sketch plan level and instead just included some rock steps that are natural that are similar to what we've got in the River Park area. Other comments that came from post at the sketch plan level were to field fit improvements so that they would not impact the Ute Ladies trash orchids that are on the site. These are protected orchids. And so the applicants, as I noted, removed the glamping pads, but they've continued to propose that they're going to field fit the trails through the open space to not impact the Ute Ladies Tress. Other topics included river access management plan being proposed as part of the preliminary plan application. They've provided one from Colorado Wildlife Sciences, which is Jonathan Losky, and it includes managing the water temperature of the pond to keep fish healthy. It includes requirements of keeping dogs leashed on the sites at all time so that they don't impact the riparian habitat and the wildlife on the riparian habitat. And Post Committee reviewed that as part of their preliminary plan review, and we're accepting of it. Other topics included removing the glamping pads, and so the applicants have done that. So in general, the Post Committee in reviewing the preliminary plan application felt that it was consistent with their sketch plan approvals. Other discussion items included the floodplain, floodway. The floodplain is shown here with this blue line on the site plan. And then the floodway is up here in the open space. It should be noted that the Colorado Water Conservation Board is currently in the process of remapping all the floodplain and floodways in Eagle County. And so throughout that remapping process that the Colorado Water Conservation Board is doing, they have been in contact with the town's hydrologist, who is Robert Crable of Matrix Design. And so in doing so, they've modeled the floodplain and floodway with the revised flood flows that came from some of the work that the town did probably 5 years ago now with the south side floodplain. And basically, they determined that the floodplain as shown on the property on this map is the floodplain mapping that should be effective. And so CWCB submitted a letter of map revision to FEMA, and that's in the process of being approved. And so there'll be a condition that you'll see in the draft conditions at a future meeting that will require that LOMAR to be complete and effective before the applicants could go to a permit on the project. Some of the other topics included fee waivers. The applicant requested a fee waiver on the water tap fees for the dedication of water rights to the town from the property. The town's water attorney had some issues with that, but staff generally believes that this is a discussion item that is for the town council. Usually fee waivers kind of fall in their realm generally. Additional discussion items include the well easements. Several years back, there was a well plan for the town's water system, and it called for a well to be provided in and around this site. And so at the sketch plan level, there were requirements that the applicants come up with locations for well easements to dedicate to the town. And so the applicants have worked with the town engineer and public works department to propose several well easements adjacent to Emma Road on their properties. They're 15 by 15 well easements, and they're located in the locations where I have my cursor. And so the town engineer felt that those are appropriate locations for the well easements. And finally, several other highlights from the referral comments. The Public Works and Town Engineering Department have requested some changes to utility plans with regards to water lines and drainage. The applicants have reviewed those comments and made adjustments in their revised application materials that are in your packet. And so those are now acceptable. The police department also provided some comments. There is a Eagle County, Pickens County line that goes through some of the units that are proposed. The applicants have kind of limited that to the extent possible. This is a bit of concern to the police department because it splits two judicial districts, and as such, there's potentially some issues with prosecuting crimes in the units that are split by the judicial districts. So staff is working with the applicants to try to resolve this concern. We can give you a better update on that topic at a future meeting. So this evening, as I noted, staff would suggest hearing some more detail on the application from the applicants, taking public comments, and then providing some initial discussion and identifying if there's additional information at a future meeting that you would need in order to make a recommendation on the application, and then ultimately continuing the public hearing to July. And as we noted, we would suggest treating this as kind of an introductory meeting. So with that, I'll stop talking and sharing my screen. and we'll turn it over to the applicant group. As I noted, we've got Michael Forrest and Ramsey Fulton here this evening.
Thanks, James. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and share screen now as well. And James did a great job of running through most everything. So I think it should be a little bit repetitive here, but also kind of good to sort of see the timeline of events for people that haven't been on the P&Z Commission for too long. And, you know, of course, we're happy to go into detail on any of the topics that James mentioned or any other topics you have tonight. So, so for the benefit of committee members who might not have been following this project through the years, I want to briefly run you through the intentional process that has landed us here today, starting with an idea that came about during the community visioning of 2019 and 2020. Is it flipping? There we go. Okay. In mid-2020, the new owners of the property started master planning and development with our team after seeing the roadmap for community interest taking shape with the feedback and work sessions behind the 2020 master plan. And here is actually one of our partners, Ryan Chadwick, actually taking the for sale sign out of the land. The then draft master plan showed how this property, in conjunction with the neighboring stop parcel, could be incorporated into the town as a key parcel to support the community's growth, vitality, and need for housing that stabilize community members at risk of displacement, including density recommendations, open space allocations, and appropriate land use designations within the property. Initial analysis proved that the largest challenge of realizing this goal was the limitation of the site's constraints, including wetlands, floodplains, and utility easements, which is mapped out here in a document we prepared a long time ago. In December of that same year, we prepared our first master planning packet for staff to review and consider. This spawned into 2 more years of analysis, design studies, staff feedback, neighbor communications, utility, county, CDOT, fire department, and engineering feedback ahead of preparing for an annexation application. Jumping forward to the culmination of planning and outreach to neighbors and referral agencies, we arrived at our first formal planning application. Shown here are engagement in public hearings and public comment feedback. This opening opportunity includes 68 residential units, 35% as affordable housing, above the code required 20%, as well as 12 fishing cabins and a hospitality offering, and 7 glamping sites, plus amenities and recreational elements provided in the extensive open space north of the housing, plus land dedication of the dog leg for childcare. And this is what area was known as a dog leg, which is not inside the urban growth boundary. During sketch plan approvals, many topics of consideration were weighed and accommodations made, from improvements to fire access, police management concerns, traffic issues, architectural response, project density, and of course the amount of affordable housing. Some of the most noteworthy accommodations at the request of the public, P&Z, and council include the following: a move to 64 residential units and a 50% as affordable housing, above the code required 20% and the initial offering of 35%, as well as the introduction of the First Tracks Housing Priority for Locals program, which prioritizes locals that have lived in the valley as a first crack at owning or renting one of the units. At this time, we also removed all 7 seasonal glamping sites, as well as most all improvements other than trail access to the open space. We further agreed to a $700,000 gift to the town for community benefit as a better contribution to benefit the community than the land donation previously proposed. These items, along with the planned improvements to Emma and Midland Avenue, resulted in the sketch plan approval in February of 2024. Bringing us to today's preliminary application with our recent refinements as requested by Roaring Fork Fire Rescue, Basalt Police, Parks and Open Space, referral agencies including Pickens and Eagle County, and following the review and recommendation of approval by Basalt Affordable Community Housing Commission. Our current summary, once again, illustrates the development of 4 multifamily residential buildings, 2 two-story structures and 2 three-story structures. The 2-story structures are right here, and the 3-story structures are right here, as well as 12 single-standing and duplex townhome buildings, which can be seen right in this area and up here. And then on top of that, we have 12 short-term rental river cabins operating as a single hotel with on-site management, which is in this area right here, as well as an extensive dedication of open space with lightly touched for river access and per the direction of post, wildlife and ecological consultants and river hydrologists. So looking at the current application, a quick note on consistency with the master plan. We are always circling back to see that this key element is being proposed in support of the community vision and larger initiatives. This is best captured in James's staff report outlining the master plan objectives and the ones we obtained, which he just reviewed with us. Next, as a town board, I do understand your importance to ensure the development community responds appropriately and respectfully to neighboring properties. So I will quickly review the cardinal directions of our borders and provide context to each. To the east, you have a combination of Pickens County and Eagle County lands, both of which have been considered in their current use by meeting with the property owners and identifying their concerns and needs. Through proposed plantings and fences at the property edges, we have addressed neighboring concerns. This is accomplished while the general scale and density of the development reflects the future incorporation of this land into Basalt and the planned redevelopment as set forth in the 2020 master plan for community growth and continuity from the post office and library to the Jadwin parcel. To the west, we have a combination of Pickens County and Eagle County, both of which are beyond the Basalt's urban growth boundary, with uses intended to remain for the near future. In consideration of this neighboring low-density residential area, the low impact and low density river cabins are positioned and spaced out to focus the views, activity, and experiences away from the neighbors to the west, while the densely wooded wetlands at the common property line create a natural buffer promoting peaceful enjoyment between the two properties with little to no visual or auditory connection. Nonetheless, a privacy fence of 6 foot tall is proposed as a separation. To the north of the property, the land opens to native floodplains and the Roaring Fork River, prospective future greenway trails and river habitats. After consulting with Colorado Wildlife Science and hearing public feedback, our approach to this natural frontage is to limit improvements and work to restore and maintain the existing open space. To the south of the property is a CDOT right-of-way, Emma Road and Highway 82. In consideration of this, we propose an extension of the Emma Trail across the property's frontage from the current end of the trail for bikers and recreational use. And to soften the massing of the structures from the highway, we have planned a dense line tree frontage between the property and Emma Road and implemented architectural articulations and tiering of the apparent massing to bring down the scale of the 3-story structures. Lastly, through landscape berms and sound isolation techniques in the architectural walls and windows, we are addressing highway noise in consideration of the residents facing south. Now for a final note on architectural character. During council hearings, this project was described as important as it relates to the entry into Basalt. The design and building's massing has subsequently reacted with intentional materials and breaks in the massing to accommodate this importance. The provided character sketches show the 3-story buildings specifically articulating to lessen the apparent massing by stepping back 3-story walls and roofs and shifting material used as they address the frontage of Basalt's entrance on Highway 182. This tiering accomplished by pedestrian level roofs and overhangs, and the use of commonly seen regionally appropriate materials such as brick, weathered metal, and natural woods all play a part in our attempt to blend with the historic downtown and rural vernacular while also creating a permanent place with durable, lasting materials and architecture for a meaningful entrance into Basalt. So this diagram here kind of shows you the transition from larger buildings to smaller buildings and higher density to lower density as you move from the east to the west from the areas that are identified to be redeveloped within the master plan and adjacent to the post office and library to county lands that are not part of that urban growth boundary. And as a final image here, this is sort of a architectural graphic of the intent of the architecture within the river cabins, and just wanted to show you what that looks like so you get an understanding of the architectural concept we have for that. So at that, I'm going to turn it over to Michael Forrest here, one of the development partners, to talk about the community housing and public benefit.
Thanks, Ramsey. Thanks, James. I'll keep it very brief. I think from both of those overviews, you see how long and how much thought has been put into this over the years. And I'm just sort of ending our presentation with, the community housing and the public benefit, because I think that's really what's most important here. Highlighting that 81% of our housing is deed restricted housing. That's 50% category units RO and 31% in the First Tracks program. 4 acres of open space and trails, the $700,000 gift to the town in lieu of the daycare, the Emma Road and Midland Avenue improvements, the public access to the river, and then one of the big parts of the master plan was creating vitality, and we create that vitality through these river cabins. And lastly, the pedestrian bike connection to Old Town. And just from a feasibility standpoint, one of the things that's been important to us is to make sure this is a project that we can actually build. We didn't waste everybody's time over these years and planning and meetings and put this all together and then figure out we can't actually build this. And that's really where the townhomes and the river cabins come in. That those units are the foundation of the financial feasibility of this project. And with that, I'll throw it back to James.
Thank you. Staff would suggest asking questions of staff and the applicants at this point.
Council questions? Ben, anything?
James, can you expound on the Pick and Eagle crossing line and
Sure.
the chief of police's concern, and if this is a site plan issue or if this is something that can be handled through the annexation process?
I would say that staff is still trying to figure that out at this point. We have received the comments from the police chief about, the line bisecting the units, and we went to the applicants, and the applicants adjusted their site plan to the extent that they thought they could adjust it. And they actually relieved the number of units that were bisected by the jurisdictional line by more than half, I think. And so it still left 3 townhomes that are bisected. The jurisdiction line basically goes through close to the wall of the garage, so it's kind of keeping the garage from the rest of the units. However, there is a second floor that has livable space in those units. The town attorney is currently working with the prosecutors of the judicial districts to see if it's really a significant concern or not. And so we'll hopefully have better information at a future meeting in July here as to whether it's really a significant problem or just something that we'll have to deal with, moving forward. We've got other properties in the town that are bisected by the county line and judicial districts. 7-Eleven comes to mind. That property is bisected, and they have had some issues there, but that's kind of a different scale in terms of and use of property, where you potentially will see more significant crimes than townhome units that are bisected. So we'll have better information on a recommendation on that topic at the next meeting.
Yeah, James, if I may, we did rotate 2 of the river cabins so that the common wall between 2 separate units was literally on the line. so that if there is a judicial issue in one of those units, that would be relieved. And then also, Building D, one of the larger multifamily buildings, was sort of slightly on that line, and we did make accommodations for that. So we are willing to sort of lessen that burden, and we're eager to get with James and the police chief after this to sort of figure out what else we can do and figure out what the severity of that is.
Thank you.
Michael Rams, you guys pull your mic closer.
Sure.
Sure, sorry about that.
Sorry.
I want to get this look.
Usually people say I'm too loud.
James, staying with the lawyer's conversation, Ryan Jarvis's Exhibit C letter relating to the water rights and the deeded irrigation. Can you expound on that at all, or are we here at PNC just to punt that to council?
Well, I think generally the discussion related to the fee waivers is typically a council discussion and decision. It is the town's policy that applicants that are proposing annexations are required to dedicate any water rights that they have associated with the property to the town, and then the town typically leases those water rights back to the applicant to use in terms of irrigation, and ultimately, they can be adjudicated and put into the town's augmentation plan. The value related to the water rights, as you saw, was the town's water attorney opined on what he thought the value was, and I think probably staff will have him available to the town council ultimately to kind of talk through with them.
That water attorney being JVAM, not
JVAM.
LRE? LRE is
LRE is their water attorney.
We have a response to that too. That's
But we think generally the fee waiver request is really in the town council's realm typically.
Staying with water. The Lomer, this is by the applicant, being done by the applicant or being done by the town as a part of the study 5 years ago?
It's actually not being done by either. It's being done by the Colorado Water Conservation Board, because they were remapping all the floodplains and floodways in Eagle County. And so they examined this area as it relates to the south side floodplain and floodway. And but they did consult with the town's hydrologist in doing their remapping. And he agreed with the conclusion that they came up with. And so the CWCB actually is the one that submitted the LOMAR.
So Lomer's been submitted, but it will be a condition upon permit submission that the Lomer has been filed.
Yeah, it has to be effective. So
Has to be
there's
effective.
a certain amount of time after it's approved before it becomes effective. There's an appeal.
This project will not have any Clomer or no rise associated with it.
Correct. There's
Water table been determined by a geotech?
their engineering has looked at the water table. Stephanie, do you want to speak to that?
Here's our engineer.
It's okay. Stephanie Helfenbein, Sopris Engineering. We didn't do the analysis of the water table, but the soils report shows that the groundwater in high season is relatively 1 to 2 feet below the existing grade.
That's what I thought. Thank you. No more questions right now. Thank you.
No basements, obviously.
Swimming pool basement.
Ground swimming pools. From what I read, the trail narrows down to about 5 feet, crossing the neighboring property or adjacent to the neighboring property to the east. Has there been conversations about an easement to keep that width consistent and connecting it all the way through?
Stephanie, just stay up there.
The answer is no. As far as I know, you haven't had any conversations with the adjacent property owner, so it does neck down to the 5 feet to allow the trail to be constructed without impacting the Stotts property.
Okay. Without impacting the, I'm sorry.
The Stotts property.
The property next door.
Yeah.
And here's
Stay here.
where it necks down, right here where the road.
It's a very small
bumps out.
section.
Yeah, we don't want to make a burden on our neighbor as part of the conditions of this application, is part of the reason there. I guess at some point, if they did redevelop, that could be something that could be acted on.
And the reason it has to neck down is to accommodate the fire truck turning radius.
No further questions at this time.
Cindy, you ready?
Yeah. I have a couple questions on the affordable housing. Excuse me. Sorry. Can the applicant speak a little more as to the reordering of the housing priority groups
Sure.
for starters?
Prior to sketch plan, we were encouraged by the town, the planning department, several other stakeholders, that we should go out and speak to employers in Basalt and through the Roaring Fork Valley to kind of letter of intents with. To be honest, I didn't even realize at the time that Aspen Valley's, the distance between the hospital and the site is within the radius where people on call could live there and make it to the hospital in time. We didn't sign a letter of intent with them, but we again wanted to put them in this priority list because we've had a lot of discussions with them. And then lastly was the Forest Service, who again expressed interest. It wasn't a signed letter of intent, but expressed interest in housing. Things have obviously changed for them recently with their budget cuts. But that was the reason. It was because of this outreach, this public outreach and the conversations, which a couple have led to those letters of intent.
And what about a private group like the Stedman Center?
Stedman Clinic?
Yeah, like why them as opposed to like the whole Mid-Valley Medical Building, which is also
So
private businesses?
my understanding is the Stedman Clinic is part of Aspen Valley Health as well as Vale Valley Health System. They have a partner. We've spoken to both. So there are staff that work at Stedman that are sort of managed by the Aspen Valley Health System.
And then the First Tracks program, which sounds intriguing.
I wasn't familiar with that.
Will people get notice ahead of the 3 months that those properties are going to go on sale? I'm just thinking if it takes longer than 90 days for people to get financing or think about, selling whatever they're in or.
Yeah, I could speak to that. Ultimately, us as a developer, the best case scenario would be we sell units pre-construction, which obviously bolsters the whole feasibility for the project. So we plan to come out to market way before, obviously we're built, and there will be a marketing campaign. And then, with the town of Basalt, we're going to work out the details of like some kind of, maybe public notice that kind of starts the clock, if you will. And then for those 90 days, there'd be priority for this locals, which is defined in the deed restriction. And if we don't sell it after that 90 days, we can then sell them on the free market.
Right. So, would this marketing campaign start before the 90 days?
I think so, yeah,
Okay.
for sure, for
Okay.
sure.
But the First Tracks is only going to be in a pre-sale the first time around?
No, every time they're sold, after that, they have to go back into that 90-day period.
Okay.
So it keeps them, yeah, we didn't,
That's what makes them deed restricted.
yeah,
that's
because
the
if it was just one time, then after that, they could be gone. So the idea was to keep them local, if there's enough demand, which we think there is, locally, they stay local.
But
Okay,
if they don't buy it on the pre-sale, they don't get it till it comes back around the second time.
Ask that again, I'm sorry.
True.
Okay, so
you
they
go.
don't get to walk through a finished unit and say, I want it. It's only through pre-sale the first time around.
No, I'm just saying that, I'm sorry. go
The
ahead.
first time around,
The first time around.
it's only on pre-sale.
No, we are going to pre-sell units to the extent we can. Those units in a pre-sale before we've started construction would be subject to First Tracks. And if they then didn't sell, I guess we'd have to work it, right? Have to be a timing for those 90 days.
I mean,
Days at
That's what I'm wondering
CO.
about.
Yeah,
yeah,
There's a logistic there, I get it.
I get the logistics now you're saying.
But you mentioned the deed restriction. I thought it was the free market units that are in the First Tracks
So they
program.
are free market, technically, legally speaking, they're not free market units because they have a deed restriction. In your packet, you should see our draft of that deed restriction. That will stick with that unit in perpetuity. So by definition, it's deed restricted, but it has a way to sort of be released into the free market.
So
They're not price
The
capped.
value is free
to
market.
think about these as category units and then deed restricted first tracks units is a good way to compartmentalize, because the category units are with the Basalt category program for community housing, and the first track units are perpetually held to this 90 days to locals thing, which is a deed restriction, but it's more of a free market pricing
Free market pricing.
mechanism.
It's market rates.
So
They
it's,
don't
it's
have-
an invention we came up with, which obviously has some things that we're trying to work through, but, staff's been great with us, and we're really because we want to house locals, and we
That's
love
like
that
an
idea as
RO.
well.
So that's my next question. Has this been done before?
It has not been done before in the town of Basalt. The tree farm had something similar, but they had shorter time periods for offering, and I am not sure whether those offering periods come up every time they get sold, like is proposed
And
here.
just one more question, so I
Sure.
know that I'm understanding this correctly. The First Tracks program does not involve the 32 ones that are,
Correct.
is separate from that?
Correct.
Okay,
It's in
that's what I
addition
thought.
to those.
Correct.
Yep.
So it's 50% deed restricted pursuant to the Basalt Code, and then an additional
The first
20 units that
tracks.
we threw into this first tracks. It came out of really, council and the mayor just kind of pushing us to like, how do we keep this more local? And we went back to the drawing board and said, well, if we believe there's this demand, without upsetting the financial feasibility of this site, to be able to go to 50%, we had to know that we can sell free market units. Okay, there's a demand for free market units from locals, let's create a program to give them priority.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. I hope it
And a lot of
pans
the-
out as intended.
Yes.
A lot of the institutions we talked to preferred the free market units over the deed restriction for reasons that they don't know who they're going to want to put in there any given year or for any given amount of time. So there is some, extra benefits that those have that the deed restrictions don't. But having a mix is what we're after here,
Yeah,
so.
okay, thanks.
I had a follow-up question on that.
Go ahead, Mike.
So of that additional 31%, if they are not sold within the First Tracks program, and their second time sold, does it have to go back into?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that lives with the unit, not necessarily because it wasn't bought
with the-
through First Tracks. When they go to sell,
Correct.
it jumps back in.
Right, so if the first sale, let's say, fails first tracks, and
Yeah.
it goes to a free market second homeowner, when they go sell it, they have to comply with first tracks.
Understood, thank you.
Yep.
And I don't want to get stuck in the weeds on this, but is it 90 days for them to close or 90 days to get an offer, or? 'Cause
90 days to.
That's tight for someone to come up with the money and purchase a unit. and it
90
has
days to
go
go
right.
under contract.
Be under contract. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like a,
That's why I was pushing for advance notice.
Yeah, it's just tight in this world to
Yeah.
get a closing happen in 90 days.
Yeah.
it's like a ROFR for locals
Yeah.
first. And
I mean, we would be happy to do some, I mean, we're going to do marketing for this. We have no reason to keep this hidden, we want to get it out to as many people as possible. 90 days after MLS, something like that. Coulter's a broker, one of our partners.
And the town will administer it, right? Did I read that correctly?
Put it
I don't know
outside.
what,
The town,
I'm enjoying the music, but
I was wondering where that was coming from.
the town's been steering us on how to try to make this idea work.
Yeah.
And so we're working with them to kind of try to work out the kinks.
So it's 90 days at posting of MLS, on the MLS, not 90 days after certificate of occupancy.
Correct. Correct. Because we need to put
Yeah,
all
I-
these units on the market.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
understand the
we
financial.
understand that.
That's the pre-sales.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah, well, we sell renderings and floor plans.
Yep.
Like some of the other tree farm stuff. It's not a-
Speaking of floor plans, is there a decided ceiling height for these units, specifically the units that are requesting the variance of reduction in square footage?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's been a while since we've looked at those diagrams because we've been doing so many other things. But I know we have at least 9-foot ceilings in all the units because they are sort of, linear units, and it's something that I've always fought for, to have higher ceilings. And Bridger, our development partner, feels strongly about that as well, to keep it quality.
Great.
I have no further questions. I appreciate your perseverance through this extremely difficult parcel and all the requirements of the different stakeholders. So, yeah.
Appreciate that.
A few, but the first tracks was my biggest questions, and let me just say for the record, I missed the glamping. I thought it was creative thinking and bring some
Thank
different
you.
people to town. Well, I realize it's gone now. Speaking of things that are gone, what happened to the dog leg?
Yes, so Ramsey could also speak to this.
Yeah, go ahead.
The dog leg is not part of the urban growth boundary. Our parcel, which is part of the master plan, part of the urban growth boundary, has that little dog leg that is not part of the town's, where the town drew the line. It went through our parcel, essentially. And James can speak to this. It was not an easy process if we wanted to bring that dog leg into this application process.
Yeah, and so the master plan has a policy in it that basically says if the town is going to annex property for development, it should be done in the urban growth boundary. And so property that's outside the urban growth boundary should not be annexed for development purposes. And, the intent was to preserve the rural buffer around town. And so in the sketch plan review, when the town council was reviewing the daycare core and shell that was proposed on the dog leg outside the urban growth boundary, the council felt it appropriate to maintain the intent of the master plan provision related to not annexing property outside the urban growth boundary for development. And so the council negotiated getting a monetary contribution instead of having the applicant build the daycare outside the urban growth
I
boundary.
figured we spent a lot of time talking about the dog leg last time, too.
Yeah,
I was kind of
we
curious if it disappeared.
we originally were gonna put the daycare center
Right.
on the dog leg,
Yeah.
as you recall. Yeah.
Did we do a site visit? I must have been, I missed it, I think. Okay.
I missed it as well.
Yeah, at the sketch plan level.
Yeah. All right. I don't have any other questions. Do we open for public comment?
Yes, please. That would be appropriate.
7 o'clock straight up, we'll open for public comment.
Will you stop sharing?
I did.
Oh, you did. So funny.
If you're online and would like to make public comment, if you could please raise your hand. Seeing no hands.
There we go. Okay, 7:01, we'll call it, we'll close public comment. So our task tonight was to come up with any additional information that we want for the next time we see these guys. So do we have any other?
I don't have any other information, but the only thing I'm mixed about is reordering the priorities rather than going what the town has set. So I just want to raise that question and see how the other commissioners feel about that.
Don, I mean, that we find a market for it and then move them into the category we want them to be in seemed a little backwards, but, I'm all good with AVH and AVSC, so I don't have any problem with it.
I think I would not be doing this board a service if I didn't ask about our Class A units, as Mr. Marin would, as Commissioner Marin would be asking. So if there is any additional information that you can provide us on accessible units, we'd appreciate that.
Good call, Ben. And Mr. Mayor would also be thrilled to hear the bridge was no longer in the conversation.
Yes,
So
thank
I can understand that well.
Additional information, we've looked at intersection improvements near the post office. It only includes vehicle improvements. That path that leads to the gas station, the bus stop, kind of just dead ends into that street. There's no, doesn't look like there's an ADA access across the street. So I'd like to see a little more information on how we plan on conveying pedestrians through that intersection with that increased use.
This might be out of our purview, and if it is, please feel free, James or Michelle, to say so. Are we allowed to request any sort of dewatering information for your proposed phasing plans?
It's a little early.
A little early. Okay.
Duly noted.
I have questions about the size and the types of units that are being built for the lodging cabins and what they're going to be made of. Are they stick-built? Are they tiny home type buildings, et cetera? I probably should have asked that earlier. Apologies.
It's just overall type of building construction?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
For just the cabins or for everything?
Yeah, the cabins.
Okay.
And if we have no other required information, we can entertain a motion to continue.
Motion to continue.
Staff is suggesting that the continuation date be July 15th.
Motion to continue to July 15th.
So,
All in favor?
aye.
Is that
Great.
good enough, Michelle?
That's good, you did it.
Ready
Thank you
close?
so much.
Yeah, okay. Thanks,
Thank you.
gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, packet.
I don't think, I don't know if you engineers should sit next to each other.
We probably should. You should probably bring us up. Thanks, Stephanie.
Which brings us to item 3A, a public hearing, Butch's Lobster Shack C2 site plan review for renewal of the mobile fixed food vendor.
I apologize, I'm sharing the screen here. We got bogged down.
All good. Good evening, guys. I'll just give a quick background here. Carlton Henry, planner 2 at the town of Basalt. Good to see you guys again. Tonight I will be presenting on a public hearing for 144 Midland Avenue. It's a site plan review for reauthorization of the 2018 site plan approval for Butch's Lobster Shack. This site plan approval would be valid for the year 2025 under this proposal. The purpose of this site plan application, Butch Darden, who's here with us today, on behalf of Star Mesa Properties, the applicant is requesting Planning and Zoning Commission approval to reauthorize operation of Butch's Lobster Shack on the historically designated property at 144 Midland Avenue, also known as the Kelly property, and for a review of amplified sound and or music associated with this use. Just a quick background, Butch's Lobster Shack has been in operation under town approval for over a decade. In 2018, Butch's Lobster Shack moved to the 144 Midland Avenue property and was approved by Planning and Zoning Resolution number 2 of 2018 to install a commissary facility and more permanent facilities for seasonal use there. It was also determined in 2018 that administrative approval could be used to authorize that use from year to year. Moving on here, in 2019, TRC had received some initial complaints regarding that first year of operation, including odors from the permanent cooking facilities, food storage and waste, and parking. in the adjacent property, so off-site parking. The applicant addressed those concerns in the 2019 approval and has cooperated with administrative approval since. However, with the initial 2018 approval, it stated that should there be any concerns raised, that staff could bring this 2018 approval, that again is administratively renewed every year, back to Planning and Zoning Commission. In the summer of 2024, town staff received several complaints regarding amplified music and or sound carrying up into the Hill District. Additionally, Butch's Lobster Shack hosted a large unpermitted event at the end of August, which included unpermitted outdoor structures and amplified music. The town of Basalt issued a formal letter to Mr. Darden of Butch's Lobster Shack on September 3rd of 2024, notifying him of the complaints and acknowledging the unpermitted event. That letter has been included as part of your packet this evening. Since September of 2024, the applicant has cooperated with staff and is seeking to bring his business into compliance with town code, regulation, and the future seasonal approvals for his business through this application. The conditions included in the attached resolution include a draft condition regarding noise, which restricts the times in which amplified music sound and/or sound may be permitted, and directs the applicant to generally orient the amplification toward Midland Avenue and away from the adjacent residential uses in the Hill District. Staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission hear public comment, discuss the development application, and approve Planning and Zoning Resolution 01 Series of 2025 and the conditions included therein as drafted, which would essentially restart the site plan approval for Butch's Lobster Shack. Also included in the conditions would continue the annual tradition of seeing this as an administrative approval. I'll take a half step back here. I don't think we need to go through all of the discussion items included in the staff memo, but I would point to a couple, including consistency with the Basalt master plan. Staff believes that the proposed use for 2025 is consistent with several of the objectives and goals in the Basalt master plan, including Objective 1K, to strive to retain the quaintness of Basalt and existing quirky elements that contribute to its small town feel. Goal 4.1, conserving agricultural land, river frontage, and open space around the community by growing from the inside out and encouraging compact, efficient, pedestrian, and transit-oriented development with distinct activity centers. Objective 4A, discouraging strip commercial and low-density urban sprawl development and encouraging concentric development patterns. Goal 7.1, creating a balanced economy of sustainable economic growth that provides a broad range of job opportunities and goods and services for local residents and visitors. And Objective 7N, which is supporting existing local business and small town business character, encouraging local ownership of business properties and facilities. With that, I would just ask James that you move to Exhibit B and see if we have any questions regarding the conditions included. There are several pages of conditions, so I'm not sure it's the most pertinent to go through item by item, but I'm more than happy to if it interests the commission.
And I would also add to that the conditions that are provided are generally consistent with the conditions that have been placed in the past on Butch's, with the exception of the additional condition related to the music being oriented towards Midland Avenue to kind of help minimize the impact of music.
Additionally, just for maybe one detail that might be pertinent to the discussion, the hours of operation for Butch's Lobster Shack have been set to food service and outdoor amplified sound will be limited from 11:30 a.m. to 9:30 p.m., and the service of alcohol should be allowed until 11 o'clock p.m.
Is that consistent with all the other restaurants?
Yeah, we generally don't limit those things. There are several bars in town that are open later than 11 o'clock p.m. However, with a conversation with the applicant and additionally the outdoor, exclusively outdoor use, we feel that it's a little bit different situation.
Why are we limiting food service hours?
Noise and smell.
Compared,
It all travels up the hill is the feedback that we get from the neighbors.
but alcohol doesn't add to noise?
I would also say that the food service has been limited until 9:30 in previous years as well, so that was a vestige of previous approvals. I can also let the applicant speak to that if
Yeah, Butch,
you guys
do
have any
wanna
questions
talk-
for the
Do you want
applicant.
to speak to your business hours, that times work for you? Come on.
Yeah, if you would like to say anything regarding to the hours of operation for your business.
No, I think that's fine. But I do want to say something. I'm really sorry about that music last summer. I had no idea what was going to happen. It was just like, you got to be kidding me. And some guy really got upset, and I apologized profusely. But anyhow, I won't do it again, I promise.
This is a public hearing.
It is a public hearing, yeah.
Questions
No questions
from
for me.
us?
The applicant does have a liquor license?
Yes.
Correct, valid through April 30th, I believe, of next year, but that has been included as part of the packet as well. Not the liquor license, but just the date. But we do have that on file with the town.
And assuming a successful completion of this summer season, we'll go back to administrative approvals?
True.
Good.
That is also suggested in the conditions of approval, and this approval would be valid until October 31st, or before if the applicant chose to close.
Open to public, okay. 7:14, we'll open public comment.
Nobody online.
Not seeing anybody here or in the ether, we're going to close public comment. And any further discussion or entertain a motion?
I'd make a motion to approve.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody
Thank you.
opposed?
Hmm?
Okay,
You
it's
did it.
unanimous, Michelle.
All right. That's it. You did it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. Next year, we'll get you in the top of the agenda.
Don't come back next year.
I wasn't going to say anything, but my God, you people go through this? It's just like, wow. Thanks, James.
Thanks.
See you soon. We volunteer to do this.
Michelle?
Michelle?
Well, you're on to commissioner comments and staff updates. Do you, any
We got
commissioner
Ben's
comments?
comment.
Okay. Very good. All right. Well, fun stuff, as you know, tomorrow, which is going to be June 18th, is the first concert of the season. We're super excited about that. And you may have noticed we have our cabanas out there that the concessions will be sold from. That'll reduce the hazards of pop-up tents catching in the wind and all of those things. So there'll be a little learning curve with those, but we're pretty excited about that. And that being said, the second concert on June 25th, the nonprofit benefiting from that concert are the residents at the Aspen, Basalt, and Mountain Valley mobile home parks that are for sale. So come Thursday and support that, as you should to every concert, but that's a really special one. The community recycling event is coming up on June 28th, I think that says, at the Basalt High School. So that information is also on our website and hitting our social media.
Is that going to be the electronics
The
and
elec-
such again?
Yes, electronics, waste tires, paints, all of those sorts of things. No sofas,
Where again?
What,
No
what
mattresses.
About, what about appliances?
appliances, yes.
Great.
Anything that has steel or electronics in it, you can bring it. It's crazy.
Microwave
Hopefully I can send my son this time without coming home at more than we said.
Yes, yes. And it's at the Basalt High School from 9 to 1. So look for that. BPAC advertised a call to artists to get art consignment pieces that will eventually land on Midland Avenue. That call closes August 1st, and we so far have 10 submissions. So we're really excited about that. E-bike rebates are open again this year, $500 if you qualify, plus the $450 state point of sale tax rebate, so you have $950 there. Any qualified Colorado e-bike rebate or e-bike retailer.
And $50 from Holy Cross Energy.
$50.
If you are a Holy Cross customer.
That's right.
Wow.
And those are the big ones for today. Did you have one?
Next meeting will be July 15th, so there won't be a meeting the week of July 4th. We'll send that out in an email, but just
No
give me
meeting
a heads
next
up on that.
In 2 weeks. Understood. Yeah.
So keep talking, you're gonna owe me.
Oh, no, okay. So then, there's also Basalt River Jams on July 5th.
I'll entertain a motion. Win my bet.
I'm happy one.
Second.
What was your bet?
The over-under on what time we would finish.
I'm proud of you guys. Good job. All right. Thanks for a nice meeting.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Don't we have to make a motion to adjourn?
I got it.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, we didn't vote on it technically.
Great.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Still wins his bet.
Oh, I tried to stall it out.
With 21 minutes to spare.